Hi there. Before you jump into this episode, we want to make sure our listeners know about the How Do You Drew Patreon page, where we release exclusive content for our members.
We've shared unedited video versions of podcast episodes, rare Drew Barrymore photos from our digital archives, movie commentaries, and so much more.
We're currently working through a deep dive of each chapter of Little Girl Lost, which, if you don't know, is Drew's out-of-print autobiography released when she was only a teenager. And it's been really good stuff, you guys.
There's already plenty of content to dig into and lots more to come. So join now for as little as $1 a month and support us at How Do You Drew.
Yeah, go to patreon.com/howdoyoudrew to join today. Thank you.
Enjoy the episode.
Let's do this thing.
Hello, and welcome to How Do You Drew?
This is a Drew Barrymore podcast brought to you by thedrewseum.com.
And sponsored by our friends at Positive Medium.
I'm Anne.
And I'm Ashley.
And hello.
Hello. We're going to pretend like the world isn't insane. You guys aren't here for that.
No, we're not even going to acknowledge fully what's happening in the world, in the country more aptly.
Yeah.
But
in Anne's words, today is not the day.
Today
is
not the day. This is not a podcast about politics. This is a podcast about Drew Barrymore.
No.
That's what we just said. So we are here to continue our Movieline series. So we are doing the next in the series. So we just did 1994. We're going to be doing the next in our series. Before that, let's get into some follow-ups.
Okay, so I just thought this was funny that, of course, the day our last episode aired, which was all about Halloween, and we were waiting to see, what was this Halloween Queen of Christmas Mariah Carey thing going to be? Of course, that day it came out, they started sharing the clips and the photos from the episode.
Yeah, that was really hilarious. Yeah, it was great.
Typical us.
Yes. Let's just talk about how rad she looked. I mean,
yes.
I can't even really explain why it is so cool. It's like a bright orange dress with like a massive black feather collar, and she looks amazing.
Yeah. Matthew Kilgore, our buddy, the tailor at the Drew Barrymore show, he let us know that it was by Lanvin. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. And then he said that Lee accessorized it so perfectly, Lee Harris, her stylist. So
yes.
It's funny because I don't really like orange in general, but for Halloween, I'm like, yes, nailed it. Beautiful. Kind of sad we didn't get a costume, but this is also really cool. So, it works too.
Yeah. Is there anything notable to say about the episode?
Not really.
Okay.
They did a fun door decorating contest, and Drew did a Beetlejuice one and quickly mentioned about how she'd auditioned for Beetlejuice, which we already knew, but it's always kind of fun when she drops those little could have beens. There's going to be some could have beens in this article that we're going to talk about too.
Oh, yeah. All right. So what else do we have for follow-ups? I see that you told me we got a comment on the YouTube video for our episode on Drew's former Hollywood home, which was our episode 69.
Oh my gosh. So we have a really cool video for that one. It's an actual video episode with our friend and guest, Lindsay Blake of IamNotAstalker.com. There's an amazing slideshow that Anne put together and with all of Lindsay's research and all of our research. Anyway,
it's a lot.
Yeah. It's one of our favorites because so much went into it. But we got a comment there from this woman, Suzanne K. And she commented, her dad was musician's agent and record producer Monty Kay. And he bought the house, according to her, from Berry Gordy. And that was Lindsay's, she had all these breadcrumbs that he might have been the original owner or one of the original owners, but she never found anything that satisfied her. So she's so excited about this.
Remind me who Berry Gordy is again.
Also music kind of producer type, lots of musicians, it just this adds to the music lore of that home.
Yeah.
And then she said that they had lived there from approximately 1970 until 1988. And I looked it up, and that is actually when her dad passed away. And then her
Okay.
mom is also notable. Her mom is actress Diane Carroll. I found like a cool TikTok series about their relationship. Like,
Oh.
yeah, really neat. So just love filling in any more information about the history of that home. We just have such a soft spot in our hearts for it. And Lindsay was
Yep.
super excited too when I shared it with her.
Oh, that's so cool. So, yay, that was like the quintessential follow-up. It's sort of like
Yeah, it really
another little
is.
tidbit.
What could be better than someone who lived there responding?
Yeah, no kidding. And now a little more somber follow-up. So we've talked about Linda Obst in the past, which was the producer who basically saved Bad Girls from disaster and became a massive inspiration for Drew. She unfortunately passed away on October 22nd. We did talk about her a bit in the when we talked about the Bad Girl reunion episode, because she sent a sweet video into the Drew Barrymore show that they played on air.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned it then. I'll mention it again now. The way that she came in as a producer and handled what was going on with Bad Girls really planted the seeds of inspiration for Drew to start Flower Films. So, like, it's a big deal. And I happen to have her book, which is called Hello, He Lied. And I have it because there's two really cool pictures of Drew in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to just buy stuff like that. Like, I never do that anymore. But I went and pulled it out, and I just thought this was a cool quote to read. She wrote, quote, "Driving the roads of West Texas with Drew Barrymore under a starry sky, listening to her 60s tapes was among the most exhilarating moments I ever spent on location."
Oh,
Oh, I know.
that's
And we'll
cool.
share the photo from the book of the two of them together from 1993. It's so cute.
Yeah. So rest in peace, Linda.
Yeah.
All right. So into a lighter topic. Let's talk about what Drew proclaimed her love for.
I love love.
All right, here we go. Drew loves sandwiches. A tuna melt, which is that a sandwich?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, cool. She loves when somebody comes into your life and just tells you what to do, how to do it, and what it will accomplish.
Yeah, that's relatable.
She loves when pictures are in a book. Hey, speaking of, that's so weird.
That is weird.
I didn't even make that connection. Me too, Drew, especially if they're of you. She loves Claro,
What's Claro?
the musical artist.
Oh, okay.
She loves Matthew McConaughey.
Okay.
Boots. Tea, which I like triple checked. We have never reported on her saying I love tea. Can't believe it.
We know that so well. Did she ever say iced tea?
No, weirdly enough. I think
So
I found
weird.
some other weird variation of tea, but anyway, that was a first. Couldn't believe it.
Okay.
She loves tomato paste.
Okay.
She loves Tupperware.
Me too.
Okay, you're going to have to pronounce this one. She loves the artist.
Mondrian.
Thank you. And she loves words. Also, how is that never something we've said before?
Yeah,
It's
goes
like
right in line with paper and books and
yes, and macaroni, cheese, and tea. Like duh.
Yep. Yeah.
And then finally, Drew loves a wiener.
Wieners! I got hot wieners!
But I do love that clip of Gary Marshall from Never Been Kissed. If you guys don't know that,
I will always think of that. Yes.
always.
No matter what, especially if I'm at a baseball game
Yeah,
and there's somebody eating a wiener, a hot wiener, I'm gonna think of it.
wieners.
We got hot wieners. All right, so let's talk about the Druism of the week.
You know, those cool little isms that we do.
Okay, I couldn't find an audio of this, so I'm just going to report it. But she was talking about cracking your back, like laying on a roller, I believe. And she said, quote, "It's like carpet being ripped up when you crack your back." And as a cracker over here, personally, I really liked that.
I can feel it viscerally.
Yes, hear it, sense it, all of the feelings.
Now I feel like I want to crack my back.
I know. Oh, it's the best.
Oh God. All right, so let's get into this week in Drew history.
Okay, November 16th, 1998. It's special time in our Drewbie lives.
Mm-hmm.
There was the Home Fries premiere in Los Angeles. Drew attended with her maybe still boyfriend, maybe not. They sure were holding hands. Luke Wilson. And also Courtney Love was there. Pretty small event. Like, it didn't look like anyone else from the movie went, weirdly enough.
Yeah.
But I feel like this look of hers was in so many magazines.
Well, I was going to say clippings galore.
Yes.
Like, I remember, I mean, I know for sure. I almost feel like I should have like pulled it out and taken a picture of how many clippings there are.
Do it. We'll put it on the episode page.
Oh, I mean, I will later. Yeah.
Yeah. Not right this second.
But remind me too, because yes, clippings, a massive amount of clippings. The look is really cute, although unusual for Drew a little bit. I would have probably loved a dress like this at the time, the early goth Anne in me.
Oh, this is a very like late 90s dress to me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, red, long, like, what do you call that type of dress that like tapers? Because it's like,
I don't know. Is it like a mermaid? Kinda.
Not really.
It's strapless. Mermaid,
but
it's like sequin. It's not sequins, beads, right?
It's like beaded, with like, it's like red and black with a bunch of like laciness on it. You got to see it if you haven't seen it. If you ever collected on Drew and it was anywhere around this time, there's no way you're not going to have it in your brain.
Yeah, there's no way you haven't seen this. Also, I wonder, this just hit me, like, do you think her little tendrily curls are like a nod to Sally and Home Fries, or am I reaching?
Oh, I didn't even think about that, but I was just going to comment that I love her hair.
Yeah, it looks really good.
It did look really cute, but that is a good call since she was playing this very curly-haired, red-haired gal.
Woo-woo bouncy.
Yeah, and how long before it was released was that movie filmed? Like,
oh my gosh,
years.
2 years, yeah.
Yeah.
That must be so strange to complete a project and then 2 years go by and now you're promoting it.
That might explain why the premiere was not well attended, though.
Maybe. Yeah, people were on to the next thing.
Yeah, who knows? All right, so are you ready to get into what's new with Drew?
Do you want to hit the headlines?
Always. Don't have much, but there is a cute new holiday-themed Bingo Blitz commercial, which we have feelings on her doing these ads, but it's really cute because Douglas is in it. And it's exclusively for the Hallmark Channel for whatever reason, because they're all about Christmas, I guess.
Should I watch it?
Sure. It's short.
Okay.
B4. G60.
Bingo! There's nothing like spending the holidays with your family, his family, and Bingo Blitz. We are family. Join the excitement with the Bingo Blitz family and enjoy special events and challenging missions. Play now. It's free. Bingo Blitz. Now that's a bingo. Right, Doug?
That's cute.
Aww.
I really liked that ending.
Yeah, I feel like Douglas, ever since Lucy passed, Douglas has become like a star, sort of like Flossie.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, Douglas was the one is the one who's always like out with the guests and all that. And I'm so lucky I got to meet Lucy, but she was a little bit more like to herself.
Okay.
In the background. But it is really sweet. I wonder if there's part of Drew that's like wouldn't have given Douglas as much of the spotlight if Lucy was still around.
Yeah, I think that's probably accurate.
Yeah, I did pull out, I was going through my Drew mags and I saw the issue of Drew magazine with Lucy on the cover. And I kind of forgot about it and I was like, oh, rest in peace, Lucy.
I know. Oh, all her Dougies.
Okay, so Douglas, very cute. Bingo Blitz, whatever. But you know what? If we get some more Drew content out of it, I guess that's fine.
Sure.
Hey, Drewbie.
We are here to tell you about our website hosts, Positive Medium, and they sponsor the podcast. We've been clients of theirs for over 10 years, and we use them for all our website needs on thedrewsium.com.
Their services include customized web design, professional coding, search engine optimization and marketing, plus hosting, which has been huge for us for many years.
Plus, their incredible customer service has been one of our favorite features. They've literally saved our site, quite a few times, and they always help with minor troubleshooting in a matter of minutes. So whether that's coding issues or back-end questions, etc., we reach out, we get help immediately, which is just invaluable.
Lucky you. To our listeners, Positive Medium is offering 25% off any managed WordPress hosting plan using our promo code DREW. That's DREW. Visit our friends over at positivemedium.com. Thank you.
Okay, so are we ready to get into our weekly topic?
Ooh, yes. Did you love reading this one?
Yeah, I did.
This has always been one of my favorites.
I like how you gave me the little primer of like classic Drew. You're going to love it. Like,
yep. 1995. So Movieline, July 1995.
Mm-hmm. So as I mentioned at the top of the show, this is the third in the series. We did 92, as you mentioned, it was episode 81. And we also did 1994, was episode 89. So here we are, episode 92. What episode are we on?
Yeah, I think it is 92.
Ashley just scanned in and put the full features of the first two, 1982 and 1994, on our Patreon. So if you are a member, go up there and check out these lovely scans of the magazine so you can kind of take the journey with us and reread the issues or read them for the first time, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure some of people, this will be the first time. And then for this episode, I will put up the full scans, the feature, the day this comes out. So if you're on Patreon already, you'll get that. And if you're not, patreon.com/HowDoYouDrew.
You know what to do.
Head over there. Okay, I feel like we should just set the scene. Drew is 20 years old when this interview was done. So
a baby.
Yeah, still so young, but a lot somehow between the 1992 article and now, it feels like a huge difference. I don't know. We could talk about the weirdness of her age and time forever.
Yeah, of course we can. Of course we can. But yeah, it feels like I almost don't even think, I think about 1992 as a kid. Even though it's not, I don't know, there's part of me that feels so much more a kid than 1995 Drew feels like a full adult. But I think this might also be because when we became fans and idolized this 1995 version of Drew, it felt like she was always an adult or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's true.
And now I'm almost double the age she was at this time. So
yeah,
weird.
Scary.
Yeah. All right. So this is the final article in the series written by Stephen Rebello. He did the previous two, which we talked about. The photographs were done by photographer Timothy White. And you pulled a clip about the shoot that he posted on Instagram recently.
Yeah, it's kind of cool timing. He just recently shared a couple pictures. It wasn't anything we hadn't seen before because we'll mention, but there's a lot of outtakes already out in the world. But this is what he had to say. Drew Barrymore, Los Angeles, California, 1995. Drew is a major part of Hollywood history, and she's taken on so many roles within it. She's worked since she was a toddler, and we practically watched her grow up in front of a camera. Child star, party girl, big scream phenomena, and now talk show host. This shoot was during her more rebellious stage, and our collaboration depicts that era. She was 20 years old, her adult life unfolding in the public eye. And who needs a swimsuit when you're Drew Barrymore? So good.
Who needs a swimsuit when you're Drew Barrymore? But yes, so the pictures, we'll just I guess we'll talk about him a little bit more in a minute. He put out a photography book that one of us has a copy of. I'm not sure which one of us in our collection.
I do.
Cool.
Again, I used to buy books for pictures.
Yep.
But this one's cool, but it does have some outtakes that, again, I think have been released to photo agencies. So they're not that, whoa, exciting, but it's still fun that he used outtakes for all of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really cool. And more of the credits. So the hair was done by David Cox, the makeup by Joanne Gare, who worked with Drew a few times in the 90s, you noted, and most notably the Guess campaign. That's cool.
Yeah, she also did the GQ 95 and a couple others. They worked together quite a few times.
Cool.
She's very active on Instagram, so that's fun.
Oh, that's neat. And then the styling was done by Philip Bloch. And you made a note that he's a pretty notable stylist, so probably fun for Drew to work with him.
I even recognized his name because he's been on TV and all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Oh, cool. And we can't not mention a little cameo that this magazine cover makes in the movie Fight Club. There's a part where they just show water dripping in part of the house on Paper Street, I think. And it's dripping right onto this cover of Drew's face.
It's so cool.
And it's so random, but it actually is not so random because Drew was really good friends with Edward Norton at the time. And there's another funny Easter egg when they released a certain copy of the Fight Club Blu-ray. It has a prank Never Been Kissed DVD menu.
It's pretty funny. Like you put it in and the Never Been Kissed menu comes on and you're like, what?
And then it like statics, right?
Yeah. And David Fincher had said like he wanted to do a movie that was from the same year, 1999. And that one just felt like polar opposites. But also I have to think like the connection of Drew being like sort of in Fight Club, if you count this. But I saw Fight Club in the movie theaters because I was really getting into Edward Norton because of his friendship with Drew. And I don't totally remember this moment, but I remember always thinking this was so cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I always loved like if I met people who loved Fight Club and I wanted to like, I don't know, bring in my little Drew thing. I'm like, oh, did you know? It's kind of a fun little, or if I watch it with people, I'd always want to point it out.
Yeah.
Like, of
Wait
course.
for it.
Yeah, exactly. Here comes Drew. Here's Drew's cameo. All right. So let's just talk a little bit about the pictures. So how do you love these, or are you kind of like iffy about them?
No, they are not my favorite. They're very dark in a way that I don't, it's not dark like in a David LaChapelle doing Detour 98. It's dark in a like, the backgrounds are dark. I don't know. Like they're cute, but they're just not it for me.
I think the coolest picture is probably the one that's in the contents.
Yeah, which we don't even have on our website. Because listen, let me tell you something about little old Ashley when she got these movie lines. I got the first 3 from the same seller. I was the buyer. And I used to cut out the things of Drew and like keep them separate. So I would have cut the picture out of the contents and put that in my clippings collages. And I also used to glue these to paper like some kind of psycho. So my copies are really trashed and I was totally cracking up about that today. But anyway, that there is a fern picture from the contents that's not on our website that we need to scan and put it in there.
Yeah, and I meant to like put it in the thing, but here it is.
Oh yeah, it's so beautiful. That one is like very different from the rest of them because she's in like green and she's wearing like white lacy.
Yeah.
It's really pretty.
It is really pretty. But the others are like weirdly, I feel like I've seen them so much that they feel iconic. I don't know, in a way.
No, I don't know if I'd go iconic. They're very familiar, but I get a kind of like skip feeling when I see them. Keep going.
Interesting.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, I'll describe them a little bit. So the cover, it's kind of, I think it's subtle. One of the cool things about the cover is that she appears to be like in water.
Yeah.
And there's like a reflection and you can tell that she's like shirtless in it, but it's very subtle.
So there's just 2 other ones in the issue. There's a full page of her. This is probably the most known one where she's in like a white tank top and white like men's underwear with a cigarette in her mouth. And she's got like a leopard rug under her. Those ones are really like, I feel like people know that one. And then there's another one that's like almost a full page, not quite, where she's in like a silky dress and gloves. Kind of like the Movieline 92 with those gloves. And she's standing in front of like car headlights in the street. And that's it. The only other picture in the magazine is one of her and Eric at a whole show from 1994. So.
Oh, yeah. And we did mention there are tons of pictures on photo agencies and in foreign magazines that are outtakes from this.
Yeah.
So we have lots of examples. We'll share a few, maybe point ones that are like especially cool.
Yeah.
Okay. And now, because you guys just got to look at the pictures, make sure you go to our website and check out the episode page so you can check out the pictures. And we won't even go on describing them any further. But we will go in to a lot of the article.
Oh, yeah. Like always. There are like deep dives that I went on. Like I'm not just going to tell you guys what this says. I'm going to go follow up and find out the story behind it. Like we like to come with the receipts, as I say. And boy, did we with this one. So it was a lot of fun.
And here's the meat of the episode, as we like to say.
Chomp, chomp.
Our favorite way to describe the main part of the episode. so let's get into it. So it starts out with Stephen, the author, writing about how during his last interview with Drew in 1994, she declared, "Love sucks." And then
they even put it on the cover of the magazine.
Yes. And then a week before that issue had hit stands, she married Jeremy Thomas. So of course this was like a strange and interesting moment in Drew's life, and she gets into it a little bit. But it made him feel a little bit like she lied to him.
Yeah.
So he has this thing at the beginning where he's going on about this situation. He says, Barrymore in previous encounters had treated me like equal parts father confessor, born too soon pal, Mang-K, and pajama party guest. And you made a note what Mang-K meant, because I didn't know.
Yeah, I still don't really get it.
Short of or frustrated in the fulfillment of one's aspirations or talents. So like feeling like he's coming short, I think.
Yeah.
And then it says, one of the things I liked best about her was that one of the things I liked best about her was what I took to be her damn the consequences commitment to the truth. And he's mad that like he feels like she lied and she's all this, and he's like over her.
Yeah, I know. So they're in the kitchen of her cool Spanish style home, and we can assume this is the one that was on Martel. That's the street name where she lived with Eric. And Drew's making lunch for the two of them. And I have to read this description because I love it so much.
Yes.
So Stephen says, ticked off as I am, I can't help but marvel again at how nature has worked miracles with her. The pearly skin and bowed mouth perpetually shifting between come hither grin and got you sucka sneer are now complemented by a shock of hair that made her look like the little prince. Her whippy body is today clothed in a black mini daisy embroidered t-shirt, nosebleed heeled corkies, and reggae hued knee socks. Oh, if that's not 1995 Drew, I don't know what
my
is.
God, I love it so much. I love it so
and
much.
Those corkies, I'm like, those have to be the ones she wore to the Batman Forever premiere, right?
I was gonna say that. Yeah, I also love that he compares her to the Little Prince, that French book. I feel like she's talked about loving. Yeah,
it's one of her favorites.
I almost want to do a side by side because the hair is totally the Little Prince. That's kind of funny. Anyway, so then he continues. He says she knows that he's upset and why. And so he finally says, redeem yourself. And she says, I was telling the truth when we talked, Stephen. It's just that I had to put on a cute face and do something that was hard for me. Nobody could know what was really going on.
Ooh.
But I'm also like curious, like, do we know when they actually did the interview?
Yeah, I think we were able to figure out it was December 93. So, it hadn't happened yet. And she probably wasn't even really dating him yet.
So
dating,
crazy.
quote unquote, questions to come.
Yes.
So, but before she tells him what was really going on, she has to stop and talk about this pasta Mediterranean that she had just made and how the ingredients came to her in a dream, which I always loved that. She's like, some people dream about Elvis. I dream like a recipe. But he's like, yeah, you can't just cook and charm your way out of this.
Okay, so I'll read this next chunk. There's just so many good quotes in this, as there have been in previous ones. Barrymore's expression hints at the dark, chunky stuff that churns under her punk goddess surface. Movies have yet to capture her heady mix of Born Yesterday and Old Soul, of dipshit and funky sage, of something utterly uncompromising yet terminally thrashed, Earth Angel and Psycho Babe. She's a Barrymore, all right, not only in her eerie resemblance these days to the very young John Barrymore, but also in her ravenous appetite for just about everything, including trouble, especially trouble.
Ooh. Stephen Rebello, people.
So let's hear about how she described this marriage.
Okay, so she explains that she realized marrying Jeremy Thomas, that he was like Mr. Wrong basically the day she married him, which questionable. But she says, quote, when I realized that I hadn't even known him long enough to find the 666 mark on the back of his neck, he turned out to be the biggest schmuck I've ever met in all my years of existence. He gained everything. I got nothing out of it except to look like the world's biggest asshole. So she is mad.
She is mad. She's more mad than he was mad at her for lying.
Yeah, honestly. And she says she fucked up because she didn't pay attention to her own heart. And this is like one of the things she said quite a few times. I think it's like one of her only regrets in life was this because she didn't do what she felt like she should have.
Yeah, but she was also very what's the word? Reckless.
Yeah. And we'll talk about that and what really comes up. But she explains that this was just a marriage of convenience, that they were only friends. And again, I question this because he is the world's biggest schmuck. He sold some of her like letters and cards to a tabloid. So we've seen some of the things she wrote to him, and they feel much more than friends.
I also wonder, like, if she felt like she really wanted to love him.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like she wanted it to be real. I don't know. I don't really know what the conversation was.
I would agree with you. That's what my instinct is. Like, I don't think they were just friends, but I think in her heart, she knew like this wasn't the guy, but she was just like, so she says he needed help and she thought she could be a hero. And so I think when she did that, she was like, yeah, I'm just going to go all in. Like, I will love this guy. Right.
Yeah. Let me read the next quote. She says, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, she whispers, then shrugging it off, belts out. I mean, who fucking cares at this point a year later? It was a green card situation. That's why I couldn't tell anybody. I had to lie, which made me feel like the biggest piece of shit on the planet. I left the day I got married and didn't come back for 4 weeks. So here I was trying to be altruistic, doing this favor, and the whole world is going, what an asshole.
Oh, which like, I don't think anybody thought that about her. It's
No.
interesting that she keeps saying that.
Yeah.
But so she realized that it wasn't worth living a lie. And she told him, hey, we're just like two people trying to do the right thing and it got screwed up and I need to make it right. And I need to make it right now. And so Stephen asks, is Jeremy out of her life? And she replies, I hate him. I don't want to talk about him, but he'd better run the other way if he comes into a room that I'm in. And I wonder if that's like because he did sell like story and photos, like, because that's such a fucked up thing to do.
Yeah, because how long was it later that he did that? It wasn't long later.
Pretty soon, yeah.
Jeez.
But who knows, like, what else happened? Like, I would love to know what else did this dude do to make her hate him this
so
much?
mad. Yeah. Ugh. So then she lights up a cigarette and Stephen mentions self-sabotage. And she says, I'm just living my life. The only fuck up of my life is my marriage. And the truth is, that's only for me to say. If I'm out there living my life and people don't like it, I don't know what to say about that. If I live my life according to other people, I'd be going crazy. Hey, my whole life has been blown out of proportion. So, you know, let everyone fucking judge me if they want to. My marriage didn't hurt anyone else. It certainly didn't have anything to do with my career. Why would people think that that's an example of me fucking up? And he replies and says it might make her seem flaky and impulsive.
Yeah.
And you pulled a clip that you felt was relevant. So let's see.
This just got uploaded and I thought it was funny. She's sort of talking about the same thing. This is very close in time. It's probably just a few months prior.
Because, you know, it's true. I'm just a normal human being and my mistakes make no difference on this planet, you know? So I still, even though I'm somewhat jaded to it to a certain extent, because you have to be almost, you know, thick skin, I'm still surprised when people talk about me because it's just not very relevant. But, you know, they say it's better to be talked about than not talked about. I disagree with that. But, you know, I think you just have to not worry about it, you know, because if you do, you'll drive yourself nuts.
It's pretty much the same thing.
Yep. You can't worry too much about what people think because you would drive yourself crazy.
Yeah. It's good advice.
But it's also like, how could she not be aware of her quote unquote audience, the public eye?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's so, I can't even imagine living her life.
No,
there's no way.
Absolutely not. She does make a really quick reference to Johnny Depp that I don't want to repeat here because I have feelings about how much he sucks. But I thought it was notable because Stephen Rebello mentions that he's someone she, quote, once had a major crush on, but swears she's gotten over it. And I think that kind of pushes him into being the lead contender for the actor that she went crazy about in the 1992 article. I think this is kind of further proof of that.
That was already who we thought it was, correct?
Yeah, that was our number one contender. And now it's like, yeah, it almost definitely was it.
Yeah. All right. And then they mention Drew, recently forming Flower Films. And this mentions her two friends, which you noted here. It gives justice for Kim Greitzer because it's always just Nancy.
Yeah, Kim was Drew's, in case you guys don't know, Kim was Drew's personal assistant, probably from like at least 1993 on. And she was one of the original founding members of Flower Films. We don't know what changed or why she no longer, continued with them way before their first official production came out. But she's kind of erased from history. And it's sort of like, it's weird because there's lots of proof that she was around when it started. But maybe she wanted to not be named as part of it. I don't know. It'd be really interesting.
Maybe the separation was kind of included that in the contract. I don't know. But either way, it doesn't name anyone here. It just says her two friends. Yeah. It's just notable because it's usually just her and Nancy, like we said. Okay, so you kind of teased earlier that there was some other maybe, projects. So do you want to list a few?
Yes, I love this. So there were scripts all over the dining room table, and she wants Stephen's opinions on should I do this project? So the ones that he mentions were The Crucible, which hilariously ends up starring Winona Ryder. So it's just full circle with that. Again, if you guys want to hear more about that, go to the 1992 article where she talks about Winona always beating her out for roles.
But I think and she does name her. And then anyway. Okay.
Yeah. And then there's another movie called The Honest Courtesan. It was like a period piece that later got retitled to Dangerous Beauty. There was Return to the Valley of the Dolls, which I don't believe was ever made. And Stephen was like, definitely do that.
Okay.
Imagine. And then there was a Joan of Arc project with producer Joel Silver. And I was like, is this the one that Mila Jovovich did? That was called The Messenger. It's not. There were 3 Joan of Arc projects in the works at the same time. I went and found an old article. This one ended up, after Drew passed, or however it worked, Moira Kelly was going to star in this one, but it was never made. So I just had fun researching all these could have been projects.
Yeah, because as we said, these were early potential Flower Films things.
Yeah.
And she didn't actually come out and do her own film until Never Been Kissed, which is kind of just crazy to think about. All right, so now let's get into her relationship with Eric Erlandson. So she says she wants to talk all about the love of her life for the past 9 months, Mr. Eric Erlandson from Hull, who she calls her string bean. And Stephen says...
So can I interrupt? Yeah. I didn't put the string bean part in my notes because I was embarrassed. And I'll just admit this to you. I stole that name for my tall, skinny boyfriend. You know who I'm talking about. His name starts with an R. And literally still call him that. I totally stole it.
Do you want me to cut that out?
No, it's funny.
Okay, it is funny. But Stephen says her eyes are glimmering as she talks about Eric. So she's clearly she's in love with him.
Oh yeah, big time.
And there's a lot of descriptions about him that are really sweet. So it says he's a Buddhist, and she said, I'm a total geekhead, so somehow we seem to make a great combination. And then there are these descriptions of the house that they share, which this sounds so cool.
Again, this is Stephen's, I feel his real specialty is either describing how she looks or describing her house.
Yes.
Because he's just killed it in all of these articles.
Yes. So I'll go ahead and read this. So it says, a breakfast room with a dome ceiling she had painted with shooting stars, light switch plates ablaze with floral designs, and walls washed in subtle sherbet hues. Cute.
I know.
And then it says there are explosions of cut flowers and vases, potpourri of her favorite flower, daisies, which he had picked for her on their adventures around the world, he being Eric. A lamp that splashes rainbows across a wall, of course.
Of course.
pictures of Eric displayed with vintage portraits of the chiseled profile of John Barrymore, and the whole house screams love feast. And I like that you noticed that it's probably supposed to be like love fest.
I double checked. It says feast.
Love feast.
Oh my God. Again, this is so 1995 Drew. It's like insane to me how much this sums it up. And could we please see more of this house?
Oh my God.
It's such a mystery.
Have we seen anything?
Yes. So the Jane Pratt 1995 interview for Extra, that was in the house very briefly. So you don't see much, but that's about it. Like, this house hasn't been sold, I don't think, since she sold it. So there's like no photos. It's completely covered by hedges. It's a mystery. We know there's a pool. That's about it.
Yep. All right. So let's get into Drew's meeting, Eric Erlandson.
Okay. And this is where I went really far with my rabbit hole research. So I have a lot to say.
Okay.
But let's start with the quote from the article.
Okay.
She says, I was at this party at Jabberjaw seeing a band play, and I had eaten some bad food, and there was the most claustrophobic, hot and sweaty atmosphere because there were 300 people in this club with a 100-person capacity. A friend of Eric's owns it, and Eric was standing outside. I was really sick and running out of the place, throwing up, and he comes and stands by me. I'm going, aren't you grossed out? But he was just totally there for me, saying, humans do it. It's a very natural thing. It doesn't gross me out. I loved that immediately. It was like, I have found someone who's totally on my wavelength.
Aww.
So we all know that story.
Yes.
But like, let's get to the details. Let's get to the facts. Because funnily enough, in Interview Magazine 1995, which we've covered, I don't have that episode number handy, but it's a good one. Go listen. She had said that the band was That Dog, and we talked about that at the time when we covered it. But she also says in that one that it was in Seattle. So like, what's going on? But I like Jabberjaw is so specific. Hole used to play there. Like, they were
LA?
definitely, it's in LA. Way back when we did probably our year in review 1995 episode, I talked about it, or at some point we talked about it. Anyway.
Yeah, it sounds familiar. Yeah.
I went really far in researching this place. It has a big like following of people who really remember it fondly.
Okay.
So there's this Facebook group for these people that we used to go there. And I found some comments there that sort of back this all up, that it was Jabberjaw, because two people who were in a band called Charles Brown Superstar both left separate comments about this happening. So one of them, her name is Scotty Chapman, which I guess later she ended up being on Mythbusters. Random.
That's funny.
She said that her best Jabberjaw memory was Drew Barrymore dancing on a bar stool during our set, then puking mac and cheese out front afterwards on the tire of our other bass player's car, and Eric making his move. It's like so specific. And then it sounds like the lead singer, Bennett Rogers, had also said, my band made Drew Barrymore barf. So I had to do a lot of research to find out what was the band. So then, because I'm just going to keep going on this.
Yes.
I found a set of photos on Flickr by a user named Rod J. Tack. And it features the bands That Dog and Charles Brown Superstar playing a show at Jabberjaw. And that person wasn't sure on the date, and it just says 1994 ? So like, this is the show. I'm sure of it. How cool is that?
Unless there was more than one show of those same groups, but not likely.
Not likely. Okay, so then despite all this info and research and all that, I couldn't get the exact date of the show. But I have good reason to believe that it was in December 1993, and I will get more to that in a minute.
Oh my gosh. So there was the diatribe of this bit of research. Thank you, Ashley.
It was not Seattle. It was Jabberjaw.
Amazing. Okay, so then after she got sick, they were outside chatting, and Drew says she felt very comfortable with Eric, and she ended up telling him, if I say thank you now, it's just not going to say as much as I really mean it. You won't get the gist of it. So I really hope that I find you again. I wonder like how she actually worded it, but it was probably
close to that.
Yeah, it probably was. Really sweet. So now 2 weeks later, and we've told this story, I believe, before. So Drew says, friend Ellen, she says Ellen, but it's Ellen von Unworth, gave her the wrong hotel room number at Ma Maison. And she says, I knocked on the door and Eric opened it saying, macaroni and cheese girl, because that's what I was throwing up that night. And then she says that Hull was in town to shoot an album photos for Live Through This, which were done by Ellen von Unworth. So it kind of here comes.
Yeah. So it's like, it makes sense. They're there in LA. Ellen's there. They all stay at the same hotel. Ellen gives her the wrong room number. It totally makes sense. So then I'm like, okay, if anyone's going to know when those photos were taken, it's my amazing friend, research extraordinaire at Fuck Yeah Courtney Love on Instagram. I said, hey, do you know when these were taken? So I'm not going to go into like the how, why that much, but of course she also had the receipts.
Yes.
Very, very, very sure that they were done in December 1993. And that's
there we go.
Mostly based on a Polaroid of Courtney that was from the shoot that Ellen's photo assistant dated as December 1993. So that's what we have to go on. I believe it. It all lines up like very perfectly. I think that's right. And one day I am going to find the date of this show and I will tell you guys when I do.
I will say before we leave this part, I've met Eric.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
And it was a very brief conversation, but I literally said to him, you are one of my favorite boyfriends of Drew Barrymore, which is such a funny thing. And he like talked about how much that she was the sweetest and that he loved her. So it was like really sweet.
Wow. So I have like conflicted feelings about like, you know, how I feel looking back now on the age difference, but also he's like got a little weird on Instagram.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, but at the time he really seemed like a great match for her.
He did. So one last quote from this section. It says, it was so like fate. But then I didn't see him again for a long time because I had to go and get married and figure my fucking shit out, learn my lesson in life, mold myself once again onto the road of a happy, healthy destiny.
Oh. Okay, so some months go by and she goes to Seattle to film Mad Love. Well, Seattle's where Eric lives. So they rekindled things, quote, over herbal tea, 8 hours of conversation and a long walk and earth shaking smooches. So let's talk about that. So she's going to share their first kiss story. And because of the way she talks about it in this article, I have always felt that it's the kiss that she mentions in the 1999 MTV movie special that she says is like still got her messed up. Let's hear that real quick.
Okay.
But when were you kissed for the first time and it felt like how it feels in the movie?
There's one person that has spun my world for a loop. I'll say that. And when I kissed him, it was pretty good, pretty great. I think it still got me screwed up if you want to know the truth. It still got me like dizzy and all delusions.
As it should be.
Yes, exactly. I'm still wafting through a long time later.
So cute.
So that's likely because of how she describes it. So do you want to get into this?
Sure. So she says, this is a lot, but I feel like I couldn't cut anything out.
Yeah.
She says, I'll never forget the first time I kissed Eric. We had hung out for 2 hours having tea and we went for a walk and I ended up just walking him home and went to his place with him. His bedroom is one of my favorite rooms. It just has the greatest fucking vibe. We're sitting on the edge of his bed playing records. I look up and go, oh my God, you have a blue light in your bedroom. That's so wild because the first verse of one of my favorite songs in the whole world goes, there's a blue light in my best friend's room by Mazzy Star on her second album, right? And then she goes on to say, Eric had the Mazzy Star tape, put it on, turned off the lights and on the blue light. Like I said, he was sitting next to me on the edge of the bed and he's 6'4". He's really long. And he just like put his head on my back and wrapped his arms around me. They wrapped all the way around my body and he had his hands together under my legs. This warm, honey-like energy just poured into me. I sort of had to take a deep breath and go, whoa, because the whole night we were trying to figure out whether we were going to be best friends or totally in love. And the moment he wrapped his arms around me, it was like, okay, I think it's an in love thing. So sweet.
She definitely was like starry-eyed for sure.
Oh, yeah. And then she does share like the details of the kiss, which I didn't feel like we have to go too into it. But she says, it was just the softest, most beautiful, non-threatening kiss I'd ever received in my life. And like,
I want every kiss to be non-threatening.
not
That's for
threatening.
sure.
I know. I definitely got stuck on that a little, especially as I'm doing notes on chapter 9 in Little Girl Lost and looking back at something that was really toxic going on in her life.
Yeah. I also just wonder, I think I know what she means though, because there's always something a little scary about like kissing anyone for the first time.
Sure.
So to describe it as non-threatening, it's also like, how can you not compare that to like threatening?
Yeah, yeah.
It's also just like, it feels like the tenderness was so, I don't know.
Yeah. Still has her wafting through long time later.
Yes. So she mentions that Eric was with her every day while they filmed Mad Love, and that he got her through it because it was really emotionally debilitating. So if you haven't seen Mad Love, you have to, but
what are you doing with your life?
Yeah, exactly. Drew said it was the first movie where she actually, quote, made some money. I think she says it was like a little over $1 million or $1.5 million, something like that. And then she talks about how she and Chris O'Donnell did not vibe at first, which we've also talked about this. I think we talked about this in the Mad Love episode. Sure. So she said, when we first met, I was like, fucking frat boy, get out of my face. And he was like, Hollywood chick, go fuck yourself. We totally freaked out on each other, but we got so close doing this. He is my apple pie. That's my nickname for him now.
So cute. So perfect for him.
I can totally picture like the them not
clashing.
getting along. Yeah, the clashing. Absolutely.
He is very like preppy looking, and she was like so not that at the time.
Exactly, a little punk chick. She also like praises Chris O'Donnell's performance for its subtlety and talks about how real he is. And she said so many young actors are like acting so much, it's like a disease you can't shake.
Yes. And then that segues into her telling Stephen that she liked the story that he did on another Stephen Dorff, who she went to school with. I believe that was the country school. I'm pretty positive about that. Okay. And then I love this. She goes, hey, Dorff, you little fucker. I mean, he was my boyfriend in 3rd grade. I've known him all my life. And now he's like Mr. Hollywood Schmoozer. And then she tells the story of how Stephen Dorff and Hole were in Japan at the same time randomly. And Eric called her and said, now, I don't want you to get mad at this, but you and Stephen were definitely brother and sister in a past life. She says she told Eric, no, the only similarity is that we grew up in similar sick circumstances. Young actors, same school. We were close. We were on the same path, but we definitely branched off because she thinks he's like so Mr. Hollywood, as she said earlier. Yep. And like,
Mr. Hollywood Schmoozer.
You little fucker.
So the author mentions that Leonardo DiCaprio turned down the role in Mad Love when Chris O'Donnell briefly dropped out. And Drew talks about in this part, she says, I would love, love, love to work with Leonardo. He actually did a cameo in Poison Ivy because he's great friends with Sarah Gilbert.
Yeah. See, I knew that was the reason. I knew I got that somewhere.
We talked about that. When did we talk about Poison Ivy? Oh, we just did that episode.
Our whole Poison Ivy episode.
Oh, yeah, of course.
That was it.
Then she said about Leo, that person has such a great charisma and energy. And she said, I'd put his Gilbert Grape performance among the fucking flawless performances of Al Pacino in Scarface, Val Kilmer in Tombstone, Eric Roberts in Star 80, and John Malkovich in Burn This on Broadway.
I just had to list those because I thought it was kind of fun to see what she thought was like the best acting performances by men.
And I actually have not seen any of those movies.
Yeah, same.
I mean, I've wanted to watch Tombstone for a long time, so maybe I will finally watch that.
So more on Mad Love. Drew says she liked the challenge of playing a normal teenage girl because she'd never gone to high school herself. And then she says that the studio was like telling her to put on more makeup because she looked too old, which is just
rude.
Like, screw you. That's so not true. But then she says the sad thing is that we both, her and Chris O'Donnell, feel the same way about how Mad Love turned out. I don't know how it happened, but it just turned into something so totally different than what Chris and I originally attached ourselves to. And if you're curious about that, this is a great reminder to go listen to our Mad Love episode. It's number 31, and you will learn about a lot that was cut out of that movie because I own a shooting script. So stuff that they supposedly almost definitely filmed, there is a lot that didn't make it to the final cut. So go check it out if you're curious.
And side note, I just found out I have a copy of the Mad Love script.
What?
I didn't know I did.
Is it like the actual shooting script and not like a weird transcription of it?
I don't know. We'll have to look later. After he asks if she's ever worried about losing any of her notebooks and journals, she says, "How do you know to ask this stuff?" She says, widening her eyes. 2 months after Eric and I started seeing each other, my purse was stolen out of his car in Seattle. All the pictures we'd taken so far were in there, and every one of my recent writings, every single fucking detail from point A to point Z. I had $15,000 in cash, too, because I'd just gotten my per diem. I dropped to my knees and just burst out crying and couldn't stop. I was hysterical. I was so worried that this book was going to get into the wrong hands. If I thought I had been exploited before, I mean, oh shit, all the stuff I'd written was from the horse's mouth.
The right hands would be the Drewseum, right? We could have these journals, please.
At this point, yes. So now let's get on to this whole thing about Eric getting the stuff back. So Eric kept saying that he was going to find the lost bag for her. As she was on the phone with the police, she said that he was chanting for hours before having a vision of her bag in a closet. And he felt it was some girls they'd been chatting with. And I just, this like kind of makes me feel like icky. Like, did he get a bad vibe from them? I don't know.
Must have.
So he said he found a guy who knew one of the people. He took a baseball bat, went to this person's place, and found the bag in the closet.
Amazing.
Like, crazy.
So Drew says, I walked into Eric's place after work and he wasn't there, but all of my contents were on the floor. I burst out crying. I was like, no way. When he came in half hour later, I was like, I am so in love with you. No one has ever done anything like that for me before. You're the guy. You're Superman. You're Inspector Clouseau. You're MacGyver. I don't know if I've ever been in love before, but this is the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced. It's been the happiest 9 months for me. Not a day goes by where I don't go, fuck, I'm with the most amazing person.
I love that every time we do something from this era, I have to mark our episodes explicit. Thanks, Drew.
I was thinking the same thing.
All right. So yeah, she's just clearly like gushing about Eric for so much of this article. So then Stephen asks if her relationship with Eric has caused any rifts with her good friends, her girlfriends. And she says she lost her best friend, which we don't really know who she means, like
very
Mel
curious,
or Justine or whatever. And she said that friendship that was lost, she said it was the worst than any breakup I've ever experienced. I still wear the ring and hope she does too. I still think about her every day, always send her positive vibrations.
Oh.
He goes on to ask if Drew's ever had a relationship with a woman that was more than platonic. And this goes on for a long time, but some of the quotes are fun to read.
Yeah, I didn't even include all of them.
I know, it was like half of it, I know.
So it's a bit much.
So she says, do I like women? I like women. Do I like them sexually? Yeah, I do. Totally. To the extent of how I fooled around with them, I think that when I was younger, I was with a lot of women. I used to love to be with women. I haven't been with a woman in a long time. It's weird. Women are so much more selective with women than they are with men. You really have to like the person. If you completely like women really and don't like men, it goes on so long.
Yeah.
Then maybe it's less selective. But if you're more for men, hold on.
Like she's really trying to figure this out.
Yeah. But if you're more for men, but you definitely have this admiration and love for women, it's a matter of the right one. I don't think I can ever solely be with a woman. It's not enough. This is something that like a lot of people are like, she's bisexual. This kind of like, I don't know if this is the first time people thought that, but this definitely didn't, this fueled that for sure.
Yeah.
And she kind of goes on, her attitude about sex was very open-minded, and she continues, what tastes good for you is the most important thing. And you go with that, or you're depriving yourself from life. If you're going to do it, be honest. Yeah, I fucking like women. I haven't met a woman in years that I really like. But before, well, yeah, of course, there's nothing wrong with that. So I just love this. She's basically like, love who you love.
Yeah. And for the 90s, that's not a small thing to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Sadly. Okay. So then it jumps to talk about Batman Forever. Stephen reports that her sexy Marilyn Monroe homage was supposed to only be a 2 to 3 day cameo, but they shot way more. He says it's almost like a supporting role, which it's somewhere in between a cameo and supporting role, I'd say.
Yeah.
And Drew says, quote, it's the sexiest, most unique and different of all the Batman movies. filled with genius ideas from screenwriter Akiva Goldsman. Marilyn is an icon, so it's crazy to think you could copy her, let alone try to be her. You can never touch that. But my character Sugar is like a tribute to her.
Sugar
So
dip
cute.
Marilyn.
Yep.
Okay, so then she gets into nudity, Playboy and Blue Angel.
Her wood nymph era.
Yes. And you noted that this was clearly written before the Letterman flashing.
Yeah, which is
I
funny.
think
It was probably
in July, wasn't it?
No, it was April. So it definitely happened before this hit newsstands, but
Oh, how funny.
Obviously not before like they went to press. I don't know, however that works.
That's funny. All right, so then she says doing Playboy was a total adventure and that she talked about it at length with Eric beforehand. Stephen asks if she's glad she had her breast reduction surgery a few years prior.
Which I was like, dude, he's just like, he'll ask her anything. Some things
Yep.
I'm like, Stephen, chill.
But this next thing is kind of a Drewsome. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
She said, I walked through life with missile tits, with an eyesore in the middle of my body. It was something that made me feel degraded, insecure. It made me slouch. On a small frame like mine, double D's ain't comfortable. The surgery changed my life.
I feel like it's one of the only times she ever has addressed that too.
Yeah. It's
sometimes I'm like, is that true? And then I see this, I'm like, oh yeah. It's not just
yeah. I know. I think it did feel like it was a rumor
like
at some
rumor.
point.
Yeah.
So Drew likes provoking the oh my god reactions of people with Playboy, and really only cared if Eric liked the photos. And she said he did, and she was all it was all for him.
Yeah, of course. She like rolls her eyes when he asks about the striptease at the Blue Angel, and she explains the whole story. So I don't know if you want to just play what she tells David Letterman right afterward, telling kind of the little story of what happened.
And so anyway, you're there, and what happened? You get up on stage and you took all your clothes off.
Well,
Tell me that's not true. Please tell me you didn't do that. Did you do that?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah!
Why not? You know,
What do you mean, why not?
Oh, think about it. It's fun.
Yeah?
It's liberating. It's free.
And were there people in the club? All friends or strangers? Or?
Some friends, some strangers.
And you just leap to the stage,
yes.
And you take your clothes off.
Well, wait,
oh
no.
My
We
God.
got there, and my friend, my beautiful, wonderful friend John Rosen, who is, it's an act that we do, and he's Dick Haney, the world's funniest comedian. But the whole joke is he's actually so bad.
Right.
But it is funny.
That's right.
So
I understand.
bad.
Sure. It's the old switcheroo.
Exactly. And I'm Lolita.
You're Lolita.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I come out there, and I sort of, would you like me to do a dance for you?
And we know what that led to.
We know what that goes to, exactly.
All right, so then there's a quote in the issue that says we do this act where I strip as he does a comedy act. So that goes on, and she says, so we did our act, and Eric was there, and it was really crazy and fun. I took it all off. Somebody could say, oh, that's sabotage. But what's sabotage about that? That's my own time. I'm entitled to do what I want. When I'm doing things like that, I don't think this is going to make the cover of the New York Post. You think I'd be jaded about that at this point, but I'm repeatedly shocked that people want to say things about me all the time.
It's like exactly from that 95 video we played earlier.
Yeah.
And then I just put this little side note in there. So she tells Letterman that the friend that she does this with is named John Rosen. And that is the name of the guy who did that artwork called The Misfits, that they used to have a bunch of framed pictures of them on the Flower Films office on Sunset on the walls. And then he also has a book of these characters, the Misfits, and Drew did the forward for that. So I have to assume it's the same John Rosen, right?
That is so funny. It's so funny because I feel like it has to be, but who knows?
I found him on Instagram and he doesn't follow her. And I was like, meh, meh.
You could ask him, though, did you do a striptease with with Drew in 1995?
Message him. Oh my God, imagine. Okay.
Yeah, you should. It'd be like, we just made this connection. Is it
Yeah.
you? Do you have any pictures? No, I'm just kidding. That's really gross. Do you have any pictures of Drew that you can share? All right. So then this has sort of become a little tradition with Stephen Rebello and Drew for the last few issues. So Drew's final message for Hollywood to end this article is, I want to stay for all the purest reasons. I want to do what I love doing so fucking much. And while I'm doing it, I want to live my life.
Oh, great final message, Drew.
Yes.
And that's the article. What a trip back in time.
What a fun
this
one.
time that we just like totally idealize.
And my guess is that this article is the reason you wanted to do this series.
Yeah, I think it was. And but also knowing that the 1992 one was so juicy. And I was
That's
like,
true.
ooh, do we read some of this stuff? And it definitely got people's attention.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
All right. Thanks you guys for joining us again. There are more movie lines to come. The 1998 one is also a really fun look through her career, but these Stephen Rebello ones are special. They definitely had like a chemistry with the two of them that was different. And even though sometimes I think he overstepped with the things that he would say about her.
Let me ask you about your breast reduction.
Anyways, guys, rate, review, subscribe. Where is our new Apple podcast review? If you're the first one to leave it, we're going to read it. So do it.
We're going to read it.
Yeah. Follow us on Instagram at How Do You Drew Pod. And then, of course, our other account is at Drewseum. All the Drew tidbits galore that you could want.
And, after you're done listening to this, or while you're listening to it, if you're sitting at your desk, go to howdoyoudrew.com, check out the episode page, check out the episode pages for all of our episodes, and also just visit the Drewseum. It's a great place.
A happy little corner of the internet.
Yes. Sign up for our Patreon. I know we've mentioned that, but we don't really mention it enough. It's special over there.
Patreon.com/howdoyoudrew.
It's the exclusive happy corner of the internet.
Yes. And don't forget to send listener mail to howdoyoudrewpod@gmail.com or on Instagram or other places. And yeah, leave us comments, leave us reviews. Follow us.
Talking to you guys.
All that shit. And yeah, we'll see you all next Tuesday.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. This episode of the How Do You Drew podcast was researched and produced by Ashley and Ann from thedrewseum.com with help from our sponsor, Positive Medium.
Special thanks to Matt Costa for our lovely theme song, Roxy Prima for our adorable logo, and last but not least, Drew Barrymore and all the Drewbies who love her. We do this for you.
Thank you.